Hello, Bible readers. What is worthy of our fear? When Franklin Roosevelt famously told the nation that we have nothing to fear but fear itself. Is that true? I've often struggled myself with the biblical concept of fear of the Lord. Like, what is that supposed to mean? When it says he had or they had great fear of the Lord, are we to fear retribution from God or punishment from God? God is all powerful and could squish us like an ant at any time. And we always deserve it, sinners as we are. So is that it? Fear the Lord, so behave with purity out of fear that God will strike me down with a lightning bolt? It just seems like there must be something else to this phrase, right? As people who follow a gracious God, steadfast in love, slow to anger, all that stuff, a God who we claim chose to die on a cross for us sinners. How does that phrase, fear of the Lord, fit in with that? I just have never really grasped how to wrap my mind around what fear of the Lord is getting at. So this was actually quite helpful for me today. We come to this part of Exodus, the 14th chapter, and Moses says to the mixed multitude, "Do not be afraid. Stand firm and see the deliverance that the Lord will accomplish for you today. For the Egyptians whom you see today, you shall never see again. The Lord will fight for you, and you have only to keep still." There's a lot in those two verses, more than I'll say in these next 5 minutes. Of course, the context is important. The Israelites are freaking out. Although Pharaoh's been beaten time and time again, all the way through a plague that ended up killing every firstborn in Egypt, Pharaoh has had his heart hardened and now has changed his mind. Yes, he told them to go, but now he's going to chase them. If he can't own their cheap labor, they shouldn't be allowed to live at all. So he chases them with one of the greatest armies on earth. And the Israelites are asking Moses, "Was it because there were no graves in Egypt that you've taken us away to die in the wilderness? We're toast," they're saying. To which Moses calmly says, "Do not be afraid. Stand firm. See." Those are the verbs of verse 13, but then comes verse 14. And this is the pivotal moment in Scripture that it can be hard for 21st century, scientifically minded, enlightened people to receive. The Lord will fight for you, and you have only to keep still. Verse 13 is about encouragement. Don't be afraid, stand firm. But verse 14 is the answer to why. Why not? Why should I not be afraid? We are a ragtag bunch of nobodies in the wilderness without weapons, exposed to the most equipped army in this part of the world. Do not be afraid? Brueggemann says it's impossible to overstate the importance of this utterance of Moses. His fear not is thrown in the face of much to fear. But it becomes a classic formulation used in Israel time and time again. Fear not, because the Lord. Basically, Moses is claiming for the first time that fear and anxiety are not appropriate in a world where the Lord is actively engaged. Fear of Pharaoh, when the Lord is in the game, is a sign of mistrust and a reaction as though God was absent or unreliable. I mean, you've just seen all these plagues and how they played out. Are you still fearing Pharaoh? God has shown God's reliability time and time again. We talked about a curriculum that is a narrative, and it could end after the third plague, but goes for 10. And this is partly why, because we see it over and over. God's had so many victories, and now you're going to fear the Pharaoh? You won't, if you transfer your fear to God, and this is how I'm starting to understand this fear of the Lord thing. If you transfer your fear of Pharaoh to God, fear the Lord, you will not be able to also, at the same time, fear Pharaoh. And this is the key to my question about what is this biblical concept, fear of the Lord, about. The point is, if we fear the Lord, that means by definition, we cannot also fear the Lord's enemies. It's one or the other. If the Lord is at odds with evil, either you think God will prevail against evil, or you don't. They can't both win. They can't both lose. This is a zero-sum contest. Either God is greater than evil, or the darkness is greater than the light. So when I say I fear the Lord, I'm not saying that God scares me. I'm effectively saying I don't fear anything or anyone else. Nothing else is worthy of my fear when I know God is in this game called life, death, and everything else in all of creation. Do not fear. Be not afraid. We hear this echoed throughout the Old Testament, and of course, Jesus says it quite a bit too. Because nothing in this world created by God is worthy of the fear of the righteous, the ones whom God seeks to live free for the sake of their neighbor. So if we're living for our neighbor, that's a righteous life. And if we're living a righteous life, there's no reason to fear anything. Now, if I or we find ourselves among the Egyptians of our day, among the persecuting class, the enslaving class, then our fear of the Lord changes from a word that means honor and trust and worship to straight up fear, like be scared. But when we are siding with the mixed multitudes, we can work for justice in confidence, knowing that justice will come, because these are the people that God is working to free. We can work for justice so that there can be peace, fearing the Lord all the way along. My next post is going to be from Exodus chapter 15, verse 18. The name of the chapter is Enthroned in Jerusalem. The verse is, "The Lord will reign forever and ever." That's a pivotal point. I am one with my God. My God is with us, all of us, at all times and in all places.